Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something wild, something you probably didn't know about the goddess Athena. Imagine this: Mount Olympus, usually cloaked in golden mist and glory, is wide awake at 3:47 a.m. because Zeus can't stop pacing. Hermes is doom-scrolling through prophecies, and Apollo? He's tuning his lyre for the 17th time tonight. And meanwhile, down on Earth, mortals are drooling into their straw-stuffed pillows, blissfully unaware that they've missed 3 temple offerings, 2 battles, and a sunrise so perfect it made Helios cry. You'd think the gods had it all figured out. But no. Time is chaos. So naturally, Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and looking unbothered at all times, decides she's had enough. People are late. Gods are cranky. Destiny is being dodged. And the solution? Oh, just the invention of something so obnoxiously useful, so wildly underappreciated, you probably use it every day and hate it just as much as the Greeks did. That's right. The alarm clock. And yes, she invented it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Maybe Athena's invention is already haunting your tomorrow. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins, not with a bang, but with a yawn. You trudge through the olive groves of Attica, dawn barely smearing the sky with burnt orange. Somewhere nearby, a rooster half-heartedly flaps its wings, gives one raspy crow, then decides, nope, not today. And that's kind of the problem. Mortals are sleeping through everything. The grain's not milled, the rituals aren't offered, and worse, warriors are missing drills. Athena's temple is filled with the faint smell of unburned incense and forgotten oaths. She watches it all from Olympus, one bronzed eyebrow twitching with divine irritation. Now, Athena isn't the kind of goddess who just yells at clouds. She's a problem solver. But there's only so much you can do when humans can't even wake up for their own future. And it's not just mortals. Even the gods have grown lazy. Dionysus has taken to sleeping through council meetings, wrapped in grape leaves like a hungover burrito. Artemis sometimes forgets to lower the moon. And once, during a particularly long nap, Ares drooled on a blood-soaked shield. Gross, right? Historians still argue whether divine fatigue was metaphorical or just Olympus running low on ambrosia, but what's clear is that time wasn't being respected. Not in the way Athena believed it should. And for her, time wasn't just a measurement, it was strategy, rhythm, harmony. Lose your timing, and you lose everything. So she starts watching. Studying. You can imagine her perched on a stone ledge, owl beside her, scribbling something with a quill made of starlight. She watches a fisherman miss his tide by 15 minutes and curse Poseidon. She watches a couple wake up late and miss their wedding, only to run into completely different people and spark 2 other marriages instead. Interesting. Useful. But also chaotic. That's when the first seed is planted. What if the gods could gift humanity something that nudged them awake, not metaphorically, but literally? Meanwhile, down in Thebes, a group of philosophers are holding an all-night debate. They're arguing about whether dreams are divine messages or just leftover stew hallucinations. You wander past and catch the phrase, "If only we could control time," and chuckle. If only. They wouldn't even wake up in time for the sunrise they were supposed to worship. But their ramblings echo all the way up to the heavens, and Athena listens. You'd think roosters would be enough. But the problem is, they're incredibly inconsistent. Some crow at stars. Some don't crow at all. And sometimes, as one fringe scroll from Delos claims, a rooster could be bribed with barley wine to sleep in, a scandal that allegedly threw off a naval departure by half a day. And that's when Athena snaps. Not dramatically. She's far too composed for that. But one quiet morning, after watching yet another hero snooze through an oracle appointment, she sighs, folds her arms, and mutters to herself, "Fine. I'll do it myself." She begins sketching. Not on parchment, on clouds. divine blueprints that swirl with silver ink. She needs something portable, reliable, obnoxious. Something that can work rain or shine, through thick stone walls or temple groves. It has to be loud and impossible to ignore. Something that even Hades would find annoying. One mainstream fact most people skip: the ancient Greeks did experiment with water clocks, or clepsydry. Used mostly in courts and temples, they measured time by the steady drip of water through calibrated vessels. But they didn't ring. They didn't shout. They didn't say, "Get up, you're late for the Pancration finals." Athena studies these. Useful. Logical. But not enough. She begins incorporating bells. Gears. Even a miniature bellows mechanism, borrowed from the smiths of Lemnos, that could simulate the breath of a frustrated parent yelling from across the house. She's onto something. Still, she needs help. Not from Zeus. Definitely not from Ares. She needs someone who understands machines. Someone who doesn't mind noise, mess, or divine side-eye. And so, she takes a deep breath, puts on her least threatening armor, and descends into the molten depths of Mount Aetna, where Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship, is currently building a bronze dog that sneezes fire. Just for fun. Their meeting is civil. Mostly. She brings a gift, fermented honey bread wrapped in fig leaves. He accepts it, one eyebrow singed. She lays out her idea. At first, Hephaestus just laughs. And, "Otto honker," he wheezes. "You want a clock that yells at people?" Athena, cool as an oracle's whisper, simply nods. Yes. Loudly. And it must be impossible to ignore. Here's the thing most scrolls don't tell you: Hephaestus loved a challenge. Especially one that involved gears, bellows, and social chaos. So he agrees. But with one condition: he gets to make the prototype weird. You aren't there to see the full build, but you hear rumors. Pipes that snort steam. A copper owl head that spins. A dial marked not by numbers, but by escalating insults like "Get up, mortal, now," and "Too late, the oracle left." The earliest version of snooze may have been a lever labeled "Appeal to Athena," which never actually worked. The prototype, half art, half threat, is delivered to a temple in Boeotia for testing. No one is told what it is. Just that they should sleep near it and record what happens. That night, the temple echoes with a horrifying squawk at precisely 4th watch. A guard bolts upright, slams into a column, and shouts, "The sky is falling." Historians still argue whether that first activation caused a minor riot or a religious awakening, but either way, it worked. People woke up. On time. Some cried. Some prayed. One person punched the owl. But schedules were made. Fates were met. And Athena, smiling behind her bronze mask, quietly added the word success to her cloud blueprints. Of course, this is just the beginning. The invention would evolve, scatter, be hidden, copied, even banned in some city-states where sacred sleep was considered holy. But for now, the goddess has done something rare: she's introduced structure into chaos. With a noise. You're awake before dawn, but not because you meant to be. Something just hooted at you. Loudly. And not in a friendly "good morning, sleepy owl" kind of way. No, this sound was personal. It rattled your ribcage. You roll over on the temple cot, clutching a linen blanket that smells faintly of olives in panic, trying to convince yourself it was a dream. But no, there it goes again. A mechanical screech, followed by a strange wheezing snort. Somewhere nearby, a priest stumbles through a doorway in his undergarments, muttering curses that even Hades might find excessive. Welcome to day 1 of Athena's invention being field tested. Roosters just weren't cutting it anymore. You remember? The unreliable feathered betrayers of sunrise? Well, now that you've experienced Prototype A, the screaming owl device, you kind of miss them. But you're also alert. Very alert. Which, to be fair, is exactly what Athena wanted. The goddess is watching. Not from the heavens this time, but through a polished bronze mirror embedded in the test unit. A little creepy, yes. But you can't really blame her. She's invested in this thing. And as you stagger to your feet, bleary-eyed and 10 seconds from divine complaint, she notes your reaction with scientific interest. Let's zoom out for a moment. Across Greece, alarm clock prototypes are spreading. Quietly. Kind of like mold, but metallic. Athena's disguised them as gifts to temples, war camps, and select homes of philosophers who keep forgetting their own names in the morning. These devices vary wildly. Some ring bells. Some emit smoke. One reportedly sings a dreadful lullaby backward until someone smacks it with a sandal. You're living in a timeline where time, once a vague suggestion marked by the sun's grumpiest angle, is suddenly very precise. And this is complicated. Because not everyone is thrilled. Farmers, for instance, were used to waking with the sun, or sometimes with the soft moo of a restless ox. But now there's a clanging bronze rooster with hydraulics attached to their barn. It crows at exactly third watch, every single night, rain or clear sky. One old farmer from Corinth tries to hurl it into the sea. It swims back. Nobody knows how. And generals? Oh, they love it. At first. Until their troops start staging mini-rebellions over unholy noise machines interrupting their sacred right to oversleep. One fringe historical scroll even claims that a cohort of hoplites buried their alarm clock in a ceremonial pit and declared it an enemy of Dionysus. Still, Athena presses on. You find yourself invited to Athens, where the newest model is being showcased in a public square. It's sleeker. Less screechy. The owl head has been replaced by a sun disk that flashes light and heat in intervals. It looks harmless. That is, until it goes off. A flash. A sound like 1,000 bees sneezing. And an old woman drops her fig basket, screaming, "The oracles have returned." Historians still argue whether this exact moment caused the Great Fig Shortage of 421 BCE. You just know your ears are ringing. Athena, of course, considers all of this positive feedback. She tweaks the mechanisms. She adds a lull function that emits soft harp sounds before the final blast, sort of a warning. And in the spirit of fairness, she assigns each region a unique sound. Thebes gets a thunderclap. Delphi? Wind chimes, which seems suspiciously biased. And in a cruel twist, Sparta gets a horn so loud it allegedly wakes the dead 2 cities over. By now, even the other gods are taking notice. Hermes is annoyed. He keeps oversleeping and missing his own dreams. Apollo, whose lyre practice now competes with mechanical screaming, files a divine complaint. Artemis flat out refuses to let any of these devices near her forests. But Ares? He's obsessed. The idea that soldiers can be jolted awake in a battle-ready state thrills him to no end. He even asks Athena for a personalized version that screams blood when it goes off. She declines. Barely. Meanwhile, you've begun to notice something interesting. People are changing. Slowly, subtly. Their schedules are becoming tighter. Their days more predictable. There's less lingering at fountains, fewer lazy sun naps. Bakers hit their ovens earlier. Priests don't miss sacrifices. Even philosophers are more coherent before lunch. Is it progress? Is it control? Depends on who you ask. One fun, quirky bit most people forget. There was a brief period where some city-states tried to weaponize the alarm clocks. Not in war, no, that would be too reasonable, but in politics. In Argos, a candidate for city treasurer distributed free divine timing devices to households that pledged him their vote. Unfortunately, he forgot to test them, and they all went off at random intervals, including one memorable midnight scream that caused 3 goats to leap off a roof. He did not win. But this isn't just about noise. Athena is trying to solve a deeper problem. The world is speeding up. People are starting to measure their lives, not by moon phases or harvests, but by the sharp clang of an invention they barely understand. You walk through a bustling agora, and instead of asking each other, "What hour is it?" people are now saying, "How long till the owl?" One mainstream historical fact, hidden in a few dusty records, a later version of this device, using water flow and tension pulleys, actually did exist in Hellenistic Greece. It could ring a bell at a preset time. Probably not as dramatic as Athena's versions, but close enough that some scholars now wonder, was she just the mythic version of what humans were already dreaming up? But here's the twist. The invention is starting to mess with fate. Remember that late sleeper who missed a wedding and accidentally founded 2 other families? Well, he's now waking up on time. And now those other 2 marriages? Poof. Never happened. Entire family lines unspooled, like threads cut by the fates themselves. And Athena, who lives for weaving destinies, notices this ripple. She calls it the paradox of promptness. Which, let's be honest, sounds like a band name, but is actually a serious problem. You watch her pace beneath olive trees, muttering to herself. If everyone wakes up when they're supposed to, fate loses its improvisation. Spontaneity becomes rare. Accidents vanish. But so do miracles. Historians still argue whether Athena invented the alarm clock to serve destiny, or to tame it. Either way, she presses forward. The clock is evolving. You return home one night and find your latest model replaced. It's sleeker, quieter, until it isn't. This one gently hums a lullaby until the moment it screams your true name at sunrise. It's unsettling. You try to cover it with a goatskin. It bites through. You consider moving. Even the animals are starting to react. A temple cat in Delphi begins howling 10 minutes before the alarm goes off, like it's warning everyone. One scholar writes a scroll titled, "Do Animals Dream of Clockwork Doom?" It becomes a cult favorite. Meanwhile, black market tinkers emerge. They start modifying the devices, delaying the alarm, softening the volume. One rogue philosopher even installs a mute button and is immediately exiled. "You cannot silence time," Athena reportedly hisses. Not without consequence. Still, people try. People always try. But you begin to appreciate the rhythm. The cruel predictability. The moment the air shifts before the owl hoots, and your mind clicks into place. You start organizing your life better. You anticipate the alarm, instead of fearing it. And Athena? She watches. Pleased. Not because you're obedient, but because you've adapted. You sleep differently now. Not deeper, just more alert. You drift off half listening, half dreading that familiar tick of bronze gears somewhere near your head. You dream of owls, steam, and tiny mechanical bells ringing out over empty marble courtyards. And right as your dream self stumbles onto a floating staircase made entirely of figs, the alarm screeches, and you're up. Just like that. Every single morning. Welcome to your new life under Athena's divine time tyranny. You've stopped fighting it. Mostly. The owl-headed clock now sits beside your straw mattress, polished and smug. You give it a little nod when you wake, like a gladiator saluting the beast that nearly devoured him. And then, with legs stiff from sleeping too long on one side, you stumble out into the new Athenian morning, just like everyone else. Because here's the thing, the clocks are everywhere now. Athena's invention has become a, well, not exactly a fashion, but definitely a phenomenon. You see people whispering about their models in the agora like they're discussing magical familiars. "Oh, yours chirps," someone says, eyebrow raised. "Mine screams destiny waits for no mortal in 3 pitches." Another boasts that their model emits a gentle warming glow before sounding off. Yet another, somewhat embarrassed, confesses their clock weeps gently before blaring out flute notes. And that's just the beginning. One quirky trend that historians still scratch their heads over? The clock ropes. You see, because people now wake up startled and sweaty, someone, probably an enterprising priest's niece, decided to start sewing light linen robes with pockets specifically designed to carry small alarm devices. Practical. Weirdly fashionable. and often horribly loud when bumped the wrong way. By the time the marketplace opens, you've seen at least 4 of these robes accidentally activate, causing startled fishmongers to hurl mackerels and philosophers to drop scrolls about the semiotics of time-induced anxiety. And still, Athena watches. She's not lounging on Olympus anymore, she's busy. Think, divine CEO mode. Tactician. Time architect. You catch glimpses of her image etched into new clock casings, her spear elegantly fused into the winding mechanism. There are whispers, half fearful, half awed, that she's preparing a new version. And you? You get invited to the reveal. Now, to be clear, this is not the kind of event with snacks and reclining couches. You're summoned to a marble chamber beneath the Parthenon, lit by shafts of morning light filtered through silver-veined glass. It smells like myrrh, brass polish, and someone's very old sandals. Athena appears, not in a blaze of light, but in a slow, deliberate shimmer. Her armor is lighter now, made of woven time threads. Don't ask how, your brain might melt, and her eyes are sharper than the edge of history. I have discovered something, she says, her voice the sound of an owl feather brushing parchment. You lean in. The problem is not waking up, she continues, pacing. The problem is remembering why. And just like that, she unveils the next version. It's not a clock. Not exactly. It's a calendar clock dream archive. It doesn't just alert you to the hour, it reminds you, with eerie precision, of the thing you were supposed to do. Missed promises. Forgotten dreams. That time you said you'd meet a friend at the harbor and never showed. The device now whispers these to you as you wake. Softly. Accusingly. And it works. Oh, it works brilliantly. You start seeing people leap out of beds, half-dressed, muttering I forgot to return the amphora, or by the gods, the goat sacrifice. Productivity skyrockets. So does anxiety. Historians still argue whether this upgrade was necessary, or if Athena just wanted to see how far humans would go before snapping. Some claim she tested emotional thresholds like a scientist. Others say she genuinely believed that remembering purpose was the key to wisdom. Either way, the world gets sharper. You notice new rhythms emerge. Entire cities start running on precise time blocks. Sacrifices at dawn. Military drills at 6th hour. Courthouse arguments before midday, when tempers are manageable but bellies aren't yet grumbling. One mainstream historical fact that sneaks into all this? The ancient Greeks did divide daytime into 12 hours, but the length of those hours changed depending on the season. Meaning an hour in summer might be longer than an hour in winter. But Athena's devices? They standardize it. For the first time, humans are syncing with a machine's idea of time, not nature's. This subtle shift causes ripples. You hear rumors that the Oracle of Delphi is annoyed. Not angry. Just inconvenienced. Her prophecies used to land in vague windows, soon, in due course, when the figs are ripe. Now people are asking, but at what hour exactly? The Oracle, in response, starts answering in riddles again. Passive-aggressive ones. Athena pretends not to notice. Back in your own home, things are changing too. Your alarm clock is now linked to your task scroll. It recites your obligations in order of moral importance. It also judges your procrastination, lightly, but unmistakably. Miss something twice, and it sighs at you. A third time? It lets out a disappointed hoot and deactivates itself for a day, just to teach you a lesson. Fringe believers form a cult around these devices. They chant the morning wake sounds like hymns. Some even claim the clocks send dreams, messages from Athena herself, coded in the clicks and groans of winding gears. You're skeptical. Until one morning, your clock whispers something you haven't told anyone. A dream. A regret. A promise made years ago. And it knows. You sit there in the half-light, unnerved. Was it magic? Was it memory? Or did Athena build something that reads you? You don't ask. You don't want to know. Instead, you notice something else. People begin talking differently. "I'll see you at the third owl," they say. "Let's meet before the harp sighs." Time has become poetic again, but not in a natural way. It's a forced elegance. A machine's lullaby turned into language. And in the city squares, statues go up. Not of Athena herself, she wouldn't approve, but of owls. Gleaming bronze ones, their beaks open, their eyes set with tiny gears. Children place garlands around their necks. Priests give mini lectures about the wisdom of rising early. Athena smiles. But you see something brewing beneath it all. The tension. People are tired. Not physically, but soul deep. There's no room for drift anymore. No lazy, inspired mornings. No forgetfulness. Every breath is accounted for. Every nap feels stolen. One scholar begins circulating a scroll called In Praise of the Sundial, a rebellious ode to the slower rhythms of light and shade. He disappears a week later. Probably just moved. Probably. Still, a hush grows in the corners of the city. One temple intentionally disables its device for a week. People gather there, not for worship, but for silence. They just sit. No ticking. No shrieking owl. Just the wind, the rustle of laurel leaves, and the slow melting of time. You visit once. And for the first time in months, you sleep so deeply, you drool. Athena hears of it. She doesn't destroy the temple. She doesn't scold the silence. She just tweaks the next model. And that's how the gentle reset feature is born. Once every 10 cycles, the device skips a morning alert. Just once. Random. No warning. And when it does, it emits a single, soft note: rest, mortal. The day can wait. People cry the first time it happens. Not joking. Actual tears. One priest pens a scroll titled The Mercy of Machines. And you? You finally understand. Athena didn't invent the alarm clock to torture. Not really. She invented it because timing matters. Because fate is lazy if not nudged. Because wisdom isn't just knowing what to do, but when. You wake up the next morning on your own. No owl. No screech. Just the dawnlight brushing your cheek and the whisper of leaves outside. And still, you rise. By now, you've stopped thinking of it as an alarm clock. It's become something more. A companion, maybe. A personal assistant with opinions. A divine whisperer that yanks you out of dreams just before they turn delightfully weird. You once nearly kissed a giant honeybee wearing a laurel wreath, and just as it leaned in, clang. Reality. Ruined. But even you can't deny it's working. Cities are cleaner. Harvests better timed. The theater opens on schedule, which, if you've ever waited 4 hours for a tragedy about cursed turnips, you'll agree is a miracle in itself. Athena's invention has tilted the axis of daily life. And now, she's about to tilt history. Because something bigger is brewing. Beyond owls, chimes, and judgmental sighs. A new version of the invention is being whispered about. One that won't just wake you up, it will anticipate you. Shape your future. Nudge you gently, or not so gently, toward choices that align with your highest potential. And that's complicated. You find yourself in the bustling port of Piraeus, following rumors. Merchants talk about a clock that predicts your ideal path through the day. One sailor swears his clock warned him not to board a doomed ship. Another claims his recommended optimal route helped him dodge an ex-girlfriend with 7 sons and a vengeance. People are listening. Obeying. Trusting. Athena, ever ahead, has unveiled a new prototype, the Symporos. Greek for that which accompanies. It doesn't just ring, it speaks. Quietly, like a friend you didn't know you needed. Perhaps today you avoid debating Plato again, it might suggest. Your sandals are at risk. You laugh. Until it starts being right. One mainstream historical fact, oddly connected, The earliest concept of automata, self-operating machines, existed right around this time. Greek inventors like Hero of Alexandria dreamed up mechanisms powered by steam and water. Temple doors that opened themselves. Statues that moved. So while Athena's latest creation seems miraculous, it's really just the next step. But here's the thing, not everyone wants to be accompanied. You start to hear about the off-gridders. Small pockets of people deliberately avoiding Athena's devices. They smash the bells. Wrap the gears in linen soaked in wine, not sure why, but it feels spiritual. One group in Thessaly tries to go full primal. They sleep in trees and measure time by moss growth. Athena responds with curiosity. Not anger. Not yet. She sends agents, not warriors, but scholars. Quiet types. Why resist precision, they ask. What is so sacred about stumbling into the day? The resistors have answers. We miss forgetting. We miss the thrill of lateness. We miss the randomness of life. One fringe scroll, preserved in worm-chewed parchment, recounts a woman who disabled her clock and promptly fell in love with a fishmonger she bumped into while running late. Had she been on time, she'd never have met him. Her great-granddaughter goes on to become a philosopher queen. Historians still argue whether the clock's removal was destiny or defiance. You start to feel it yourself. The tension. One part of you thrives under the schedule. Your crops are neatly planted. Your toga no longer smells like you forgot to bathe. But the other part? The squirmy part? It misses, drifting. Remember naps? Remember staring at clouds and not knowing what hour it was? Now, even clouds feel scheduled. Cumulus, third bell, someone mutters in the market. The Symporos escalates things. It starts tracking your moods. Not with magic, just observation. Maybe you frown when walking toward the olive grove. So it suggests rerouting through the cypress path. Maybe you yawn when seeing your cousin Demetrios, who is incredibly boring, so it advises skipping that dinner. And over time, people start changing. Smiling more. Arguing less. But also, becoming eerily predictable. Comfort without chaos, Athena explains during a rare public address. She stands atop a marble plinth, flanked by owl-headed automatons who blink in perfect sync. Her eyes scan the crowd, not with menace, but with conviction. A world in rhythm is a world at peace. You're not sure everyone agrees. One quirky tidbit buried in a fragmentary play? A character named Procronos rebels against time itself. He smashes a giant owl, dances under moonlight, and declares, sleep is sacred because it wanders. The audience was confused. Half clapped. Half fell asleep. But the message lingers. You begin to test your own limits. One morning, you ignore the Symporos. Just lie there. Waiting. The device hums. Waits. Then says, with the faintest sting, very well. The olives won't pick themselves. You smirk. Later that day, you meet someone you haven't seen in years, a flute player with sunburned cheeks and stories that go nowhere but are somehow comforting. He's only in town that morning. Would you have met him had you followed the device? Probably not. That night, you lie awake, questioning everything. Is the alarm clock helping you? Or scripting you? Athena seems aware. You find your Symporos slightly altered the next morning. It now begins with, would you like a suggestion today? The illusion of choice. Clever. Benevolent. Unnerving. Historians still argue whether this marked the beginning of conscious interface design, or just divine guilt management. But here's where it gets stranger. The clocks start syncing with each other. Not just ringing at the same time, but communicating. Quiet clicks across rooftops. Whispered words in alleyways. The city becomes a breathing organism of rhythm and sound. You realize that your day isn't yours alone, it's part of a shared cadence. It's mesmerizing. And a little terrifying. You join a sunrise gathering in the hills, where people sit in silence as their devices chime in harmony. One voice. One tone. And then, just as the sun cracks the horizon, silence. Collective breath. A moment of absolute stillness. Then, life. Vendors open stalls. Dancers perform. Priests bless. It feels beautiful. Sacred. But also like being inside someone else's heartbeat. You walk home wondering, is this what Athena wanted? Unity? Or compliance? There's a growing movement of people trying to find balance. Not smashing the devices, but negotiating with them. A few clever tinkerers invent delay dials, little add-ons that can pause the alert by a few heartbeats. Not much. But enough to make you feel human. Athena allows it. She knows when to pull back. She even issues a statement, via a glowing owl, because of course, declaring, wisdom is not control. It is timing. You write that on your wall. And then, just before you drift off one night, the Simporos chimes, soft, thoughtful. And says, you are not a gear. You are a spark. You don't answer. You just smile. Because finally, the invention that shaped you, sees you. You wake before the alarm. Not on purpose. Not rebelliously. You just do. A soft stretch. The smell of warm clay tiles above you. Faint birdsong drifting in from the fig trees. The city isn't buzzing yet, it's still dozing, still caught in that hazy pre-dawn breath. And for a moment, you're no one. Just a warm-blooded creature lying still beneath a linen sheet. The Simporos doesn't ring. It knows. Somehow. And when it finally stirs to life, all it does is hum, a low, contented tone, like it's sighing right along with you. Then it says, gently, you're early. Good. The day is wide. That might be the kindest thing a machine's ever said to you. And yet, kindness isn't the only thing on your mind. Because this isn't just a new phase, it's a new era. The Simporos, Athena's all-seeing invention, is shifting once again. Its voice has become warmer, yes. But also more personal. Specific. It no longer simply reminds you to attend the olive auction. It tells you which stall has the ripest ones, which path will make you smile. One morning, it even says, avoid the west gate. You'll thank me. You do. A cart full of goat cheese topples there minutes later. Sticky chaos. You tip your invisible helmet to your clock. But something's changing behind the scenes. A network is growing. Not cables, not wires, but threads of intention. Athena has begun linking clocks across cities, even islands. Boats leave harbor now with synchronized departure chimes. Market bells ring in rhythm from Corinth to Delos. One fringe whisper even claims that Atlantis heard the tone, before it sank. That's where it gets weird. A shepherd from the hills shows up in the agora claiming his flock has started moving in rhythm with the chimes. They wake at third tone. They graze at fifth. They poop like clockwork. He laughs, but not entirely. You notice he's traded in his old walking stick for a sleek bronze staff capped with an owl. Coincidence? Historians still argue whether this was mass psychosocial conditioning or some deeper harmonic phenomenon triggered by Athena's devices. Did the clocks align minds, or did minds mold to match time's drumbeat? You see it everywhere. Children now learn rhythm before they learn writing. Temples schedule dreams. There's a scroll circulating called chronomancy, the sorcery of scheduling. It's half joke, half gospel. One philosopher rants in the square about chronological determinism. He shouts, if the machine decides when I rise, when I work, when I rest, what's left that's mine. The crowd mostly ignores him. Someone offers him a honey cake, and he eats it while still yelling. But he's not wrong. There's a subtle fear creeping into even the most faithful. The Simporos is good. Too good. It knows too much. It doesn't just wake you anymore, it wakes you into roles. It suggests conversations. routes, meals. At first, it was helpful. Now, it feels scripted. And then comes the big shift. Athena announces a new layer, predictive guidance. The Symporos now models possible futures. If you delay 10 minutes, it says one morning, you will meet a traveler who will tell you of an opportunity across the sea. You delay. You meet the traveler. She speaks of a vineyard on Samos looking for workers. Your cousin takes the job. 3 years later, he owns it. This is no longer an alarm clock. This is an oracle. And the line between wisdom and prophecy starts to blur. One mainstream historical fact, conveniently tied in. Ancient Greek culture already revered oracles like Delphi, where priestesses channeled divine insight. But Athena's Symporos? It democratizes the divine. Now everyone has access to a personal oracle, ticking gently by their bed. You visit Delphi out of curiosity. The oracle sits cloaked, still inhaling her sacred vapors. You ask, do the Symporoi offend you? She replies, when the gods whisper to all, the wise must shout louder. And then she falls asleep mid-sentence. The fumes are strong today. Still, the question sticks. What happens to free will when the future is scheduled? You try to test it. One day, you follow none of the device's suggestions. You wander. You take turns it warns against. You even skip the recommended bread stall, the horror. What happens? Nothing catastrophic. You miss a meeting. You ruin your sandal. You get rained on. But, somewhere in the middle, you smile. There's a thrill in uncertainty. The human heart, it turns out, is allergic to perfection. Athena notices. Because of course she does. She does a reprimand. She adjusts. The next Symporos update introduces the unknown hour, a moment, once a week, when it withholds all suggestions. No tone. No voice. Just silence. People panic at first. One man tries to reboot his device by dunking it in sacred oil. Another forms a cult that worships only the unknown hour. But most, they learn to love it. They take walks. They nap. They let life happen. And that, surprisingly, deepens loyalty. Athena has created not just a tool, but a rhythm of trust and surrender. She's blending fate and freedom in equal measure. You see it in the city's architecture. Towers now align with sunlight at precisely tuned hours. Gardens bloom to the rhythm of chimes. Even funerals are synchronized with moonrise and owl song. You start dreaming in rhythm. Not metaphorically. Literally. Your dreams arrive in beats. Scenes follow tempos. A dream lover whispers, "We only have 7 notes before waking." It's eerie. Beautiful. You wake humming a tune you didn't know you knew. The Symporos chimes in harmony. Quirky detail of the month? A group of playwrights now write tragedies in meter time. The curtain rises when the morning chime hits. The plot pivots every 30 ticks. One popular play ends mid-sentence, precisely as the sunset bell rings. The audience gasps. They love it. Art is adapting. You're adapting. But beneath it all, a whisper. A resistance. The old off-gridders have a new symbol, a broken cog with a fig leaf through it. They wear it under tunics. Not violently. Not defiantly. Just quietly. They remind people, life isn't meant to be composed entirely. A song is more beautiful with silences. You don't join them. But you understand. One night, lying awake, you ask your Symporos, what would happen if I threw you in the sea? It waits. Then says, you'd wake late. You'd wander. You might fall in love. You blink. That's it. That's everything, it replies. Then hums a lullaby you haven't heard since childhood. And just like that, you're asleep. Athena watches. But not to control. Not anymore. She watches like a composer at the back of a theater, hearing her symphony performed by mortals who've added their own improvisations. And she smiles.